Hi everyone, Prime here, and today we're going to cover one of my favorite gods who we all love and cherish. This one will be a bit more story heavy and will probably be longer than the rest, but we'll see, and yes, there will be a part 2. If you hate Loki for whatever crazy reason, I'll prove to you that he is worthy of your care by the end of the video. This is not a promise. Who is Loki? A fun question, as he does possess the blood of the frost giants awarded to him by his father, Fabude, and his mother, Lorfel, or Fae, meaning needle, who could have been anything from a giantess to a goddess. She most likely was a giantess, but it's a possibility that she might not have been, so I just say that just because. If you actually know for sure whether she was either or, let me know in the comment section below. Now, unlike the Marvel presentation of Norse mythology, Odin in fact did not adopt Loki after slaying Fabude. Thor and Loki still considered each other blood brothers, but they actually were not. Loki very much lived up to his title as the trickster god all throughout his life, constantly butting heads with the gods and shifting his alliances with the Jotuns. You could say that of all the gods, he was the most selfish in the way that he acted and the things that he did, though he wasn't necessarily evil. Sure, he enjoyed a good prank and took them far too seriously, but as the king of trolling, could you really expect anything less? Plus, he always tried to right any wrongs that he brought about for the most part. See, this one time, Odin, Loki, and Heinir were trekking through perilous mountains of Asgard, and food was not exactly popping in this area, so when the gods stumbled across some oxen, they made it their dinner. Now, a bit of karma, you could say, set in because the meat refused to be cooked, regardless of however long it was balanced over the flames of the fire. The culprit for this trick revealed themselves to be a bird who bargained with the gods, taking the best parts of the oxen for itself, but allowing the meat to be cooked. No one Loki's Loki, especially not in the presence of Loki, and understandably so. Loki was angered by the fact that the eagle was so greedy. So, Loki found a stick and lunged at the bird, who caught the weapon in his talons and flew into the air. Horrified, the trickster pleaded for mercy. The eagle refused to release Loki until he pledged to retrieve Eden and her oh-so-precious fruit. You see, this Eden possessed fruits which allowed the gods from Odin to Freyr to maintain their youthful looks, strength, and immortality. After returning home from a long venture, Loki visited Eden and challenged her to test her fruit against some that the trickster had found in a forest beyond the walls of Asgard. Loki took her to the woods, at which point she was snatched upwards by Fajazi in his eagle mode and carried off toward the Jotun's humble home, Thrymheim. Thunderhome. Why was it called Thunderhome? I'm not too sure. Maybe it was because it was seated atop the highest peaks of the iciest mountains surrounded by towers and thunder. Maybe not. It honestly did not take the gods too long to notice that their beautiful, carefree goddess of anti-wrinkles and mirror idolization was sort of, you know, gone. A meeting between the gods was held, determining that Eden was lost spotted with none other than the glorious Loki, who they captured and tortured/threatened with all types of pains should he decide not to speak up about the fate of their good goddess. Loki, being Loki, spoke up without hesitation and told them everything, which in turn left the gods pretty mad, so they threatened to execute him should he not return to Asgard with Eden, as you would. Freya lent him some hawk feathers, which allowed the trickster to assume the form of a hawk, which he then used to travel to Jotunheim, post-haste, as Thrymheim was located within that region. As much as you may hate to hear it, Loki was actually quite lucky here. Fajazi went out fishing, leaving Eden in his realm alone. As you should have realized by now, Loki doesn't waste time, turning her into a nut and soaring away with her safely nested within his talons. When Fajazi arrived home, he was not too pleased to find that his home was empty, and so, transforming into his majestic eagle form, he flew away after his prize. His furious, thundering wing beats could be soon heard by Loki as he blazed closer and closer to Asgard. Spotting the chase, the gods erected a pillar of flames around the fortress. Loki, who by the way is also considered to be the Norse god of fire, made it past the barrier with no troubles. The Jazzy, on the other hand, was seared to the bone, and the bone was also seared as well, making that the last time the giant ever flew. So yeah, Loki isn't exactly an evil god at all. I wouldn't strictly call him good, but at least he's nice enough a chap. The gods rejoice over the death of Jazzy and return of Idun, but the giantess Skadi was none too pleased, knocking on the door of the gods armed to the teeth with weapons and armor. She was satisfied peacefully, and it was Loki who fulfilled the otherwise impossible task of making her laugh. After all, the other gods had failed to do so. She did lose her father after all here. Loki tried something that few men would ever even consider. Taking a rope and tying one end to a goat's beard, he took the other end and tied that end around his genitals. I couldn't make this up if I tried to. Then, prepare yourself, chaps, the two partook in a tug of war. Let that sink in for a second, because God knows I need a second before I continue with this. Naturally, the two squealed, as you'd expect, until Loki fell onto Skadi's lap, and she finally chuckled. Which, to be fair, all of that and the potential risk, just for a chuckle is... No, end of story. So after hearing of Loki's potentially great sacrifice, if you're not convinced that Loki is indeed not an evil son of a such and such, how about I tell you the story of how Loki made Thor put on a dress? One beautiful morning in Asgard, Thor awoke to find his hammer missing. He was almost completely sure that Loki was playing one of his well-renowned tricks, and so confronted him about his missing Mjolnir. Loki apparently didn't have it, and so Thor had a pretty good idea as to who did. Loki, being a good step-uncle, borrows Freya's magical feather dress in order to fly over to Jotunheim. In Jotunheim, Loki spies the giant Thrym paying extra attention to his dogs and horses, applying some fancy braids to the dogs. Loki then questions Thrym about the whereabouts of Mjolnir, to which he informs Loki that the hammer is located below the earth and it could be Thor's again, if Freya's hand in marriage were to be given. With this new news in hand, Thor demanded that Freya marry the giant, to which Freya was highly offended. The hammer couldn't merely be left in the hands of the giants, as it would spell ruin for Asgard. As such, Heimdall suggested that Thor be the one to don the wedding dress and agree to marry the giant. Thor reluctantly agreed, but Loki did accompany him as a bridesmaid. At the wedding day's feast, Thor drank 3 barrels of mead, an entire ox, some salmon, and, of course, the entire cake. Thrym was utterly impressed, but a little concerned. Not Saphir, however, because Loki excused this by saying that the bride was looking forward to their union so much that she fasted for 8 entire days. After further assuring the giants that the bride's eyes looked so fiery because of her burning enthusiasm to marry Thrym, and, of course, the exchange of bridal gifts, Thrym brought forth Thor's hammer before the bride for blessings and stuff. As soon as Thor so much as touched the hammer, he slew all of the giants that had gathered inside of the feasting hall, including Thrym's sister, which covered the bridal fee. After that amazing example of just how good of a brother Loki is to Thor, surely you must agree that he's in no way evil, cruel, or heartless. Don't give me that look. You know that you're utterly convinced by now. No? Fine, I have but one more story, and this one should convince you. Let's hope. The golden age of Asgard had long since passed, but the end was far from in sight. Through heated battles, the Great Wall of Asgard had seen better days, and the gods considered the thought of building a new one. None among them exactly rose to the task, but one day a traveling builder happened upon Asgard, riding a mare. He asked Heimdall if he could speak with all the gods, and at their meeting, offered to rebuild the mighty wall of Asgard. In return, he asked for but 3 things: the sun, the moon, and Freya, the most beautiful goddess in all of Asgard's hand in marriage. The gods furiously refused this offer until the Sly One convinced Odin that the task would be impossible. You see, the builder also stated that he required 18 months to construct the wall. No less. Loki proposed that the gods give him merely 6. The gods agreed, but Loki, in all of his cunning, glory, and general coolness, got the Allfather to give the builder usage of his horse, like a fool. From this day, Freya cried tears of pure gold. The mason had started his task in winter, and near the end of summer the task was looking to be all but complete, and the builder needed just to finish the gateway. The gods were pissed at Loki, and Odin threatened to kill him if the builder finished the wall. As such, with few other options, Loki swore that he would not allow the wall to be finished. Svadalfiri, the builder's horse, was soon distracted by a young, shimmering mare who danced around him, leading him into the woods. Svadalfiri raced after this delightful, stunning mare, with the builder following them, cursing as he did so. All through the night the horses played, and failing to keep up, the builder fell over countless roots in the wood. By the time Svadalfiri returned, it became clear that the wall would not be built on time. The builder became a beacon of rocky fury, revealing his true appearance in front of the onlooking gods. In light of this, the gods revoked their oaths and had Thor smash the giant skull into many, many pieces with his good old Mjolnir. Loki was noted to be missing for some months after this, but upon his return he came with an 8-legged steed. By his side, Sleipnir. Loki had given birth to Sleipnir and gave the horse to Odin, telling him that there wasn't a single plane in existence that the horse couldn't ride, the sky and the oceans included. Well, there you have it. Loki even went through the pain of childbirth to please the gods. No one can truly stay mad at Loki forever, or hate him, it seems. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave it a like. I'm sure Loki will sure as hell appreciate it. If you're new to the channel and don't hate the fact that I was talking about Loki for so long and also intend to make a part 2 to this video, subscribe for more great content just like this. And tell me any of your thoughts that you may be having right now in the comment section below. That would be quite interesting to see. Until the next video, have a very good day. I've been Prime, and I'll see you in a few. Bye-bye.